Fall good. All right, let's do it. We're live. Dave, I'm going to start recording. Good?
I'm good.
All right, 3, 2. All right, Dave, here's my question for you. Would you, and I hate the would you rather tackle X player or try to, get hit by another player? Because it's always going to be trying to tackle the other player. So here's a question for you, Dave. Who would you rather get tackled by? Mike Vrabel, Teddy Bruschi, or Willie McGinnis?
Probably Mike Vrabel, because I think McGinnis is definitely the last choice because he had incredible speed to power. And then you're basically between Vrabel and Bruschi. And I think he's a former defensive lineman. I think he has more thump than Mike Vrabel does, even though Vrabel could still knock people
out. So my answer, before we bring in our guests here, I'm actually going to go with Bruschi just because I want to be able to, A, tell people I got leveled by Teddy Bruschi, and B, be like, nice job, man, after he hits me, because he's going to knock every single bit of breath out of me when he does it. But Vrabel's a good pick. I feel like he's probably the smart pick, but I'm a big Teddy Bruschi stan, so that's why he's my answer. So let's bring in we'll bring him in at the same time. It's Pat Lane and Ryan Spagnoli from the Pat's Pulpit. They're joining us here today. So, boys, what would be your answer to that question?
What's up, guys?
I'll have to do – I don't know. I was a big Willie McGinnis fan ever since the goal line stand in Indy. I'd have to say him just because of the answer you said, right? Just to say he leveled me. But and I think he's probably the biggest one out of the three. So maybe a couple more style points if you get hit by him and still get up.
That's true. You can tell the story. Pat, so we've all picked one. Which one are you going to go with?
Oh, it's a good question. Willie Mack's my dude, man. He got drafted when I was 10, and he was like my favorite player instantly. Like, bought his jersey. I bought his jersey and wore his jersey so much that I literally wore the numbers and name off the jersey. Like, I just wore it out.
Everybody had those kids at middle school, right? They wore the jersey, and back when they made the peel ones, when it was a cheap one, they just peel it off. That happened to my Brady and Bledsoe one.
Yeah, dude. I wore it out. So Willie Mack is a good, but the thing is, man, he'd kill me. I'd be dead. I mean, realistically, you'd be dead with any of them, right? But like, I think I'm going Bruschi just for the simple fact that I think he's the least likely to kill me because he's like the smallest of the three. You know what I mean? Like, he's still a monster, but he's the smallest of the three. And so I figure maybe I can survive. You know, if Willie Mack gets a hold of you, dude, forget about it. Like, you're dead. You're done. You're dead. Like, it's just, you know what I mean? Like, so, but, but that's I'd probably go Bruschi there.
Yeah. I'm more of a Bruschi guy again. Like I had said, like, I just love to be able to get up and be like, hey, first job, like, nice job, dude. Good hit. Or I'd pull the, you guys ever see, I think it's Jackass 3, the one where Jared Allen is in it. And has anybody seen that other than me?
No, was he crushed? He crushed the dude.
So he plays linebacker. Knoxville plays wide receiver.
Oh god!
And he absolutely like truly levels Johnny Knoxville. Knoxville gets up and he says, "Don't hit me with your purse next time."
Oh god!
And then the next hit he gets blindsided.
Brutal.
It's hysterical. But anyway. Moving on to the main event today, gentlemen. We're going to do an all-time Patriots draft. But when I had the idea, I said to Dave, we can't just do an all-time Patriots draft because whoever takes Tom Brady, that's it. It'll be a 5-minute podcast. No one's voting for the other team. All due respect to Drew Bledsoe and Steve Grogan and Jim Plunkett and Matt Castle, but no one's voting for those teams.
And Jimmy G and Stiddy, dude. Come on.
I was going to say, Jared, you got to mention Jared Stidham there.
Right. Yeah, we also should throw Rohan Davey in there as well. But instead of that, we are going to do the old flag football method where it's the quarterback for both teams type deal. So we're all going to get Tom Brady off the bat, and it's a build around Brady all-time pass draft. We're going to build the best Patriots team around him using just guys who played for the Patriots. So what we're going to do instead of what we did with the college football draft where we did a quarterback, we're going to replace that with a left tackle because you got to protect Brady's blind side, of course. So we're each going to take 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, a tight end, a left tackle, and 2 defensive players, an 8-round draft. The draft order has been determined. I did the randomizer. The first pick is going to Mr. Pat Lane.
Let's go.
I have the second pick. Spags is going third, and Dave has the wheel.
So, Tim.
I'd love the wheel. Love the wheel.
I'll be keeping track of who has what. So if you're forgetting what you have, if you're not keeping track of it, just ask me. I can let you know. Without further ado, Pat, you have the pick of anybody in the Patriots history. Who are you going to start building your team around Tom Brady?
I mean, it's the easiest decision ever. I mean, well, that's not true, but the position scarcity, this is the thing, right? The position scarcity is really where, because I think the number two, I'm like stumbling over my words here. 1 and 2, I think, are obvious picks. Okay. And so you look at it and say, okay, what does the position scarcity look like? What's the drop off from number 1 to number 2? And Randy Moss, arguably the greatest wide receiver in the history of the NFL. However, Gronk has to be the number 1 pick. He has to be. He's the most uncoverable player I've ever seen. And so Gronk is the number 1 pick, has to be the number 1 pick. And I just won. So you're welcome.
Yeah, I think you're right about position scarcity, because doing the prep for this draft, it's really a 2-man competition at that
It
position.
is. Yes.
There's a couple other guys, like if Gronk and the other guy are off the board by the time it gets to you for tight end, you might as well play it like a fantasy football draft and just wait till the last round.
Pretty much.
Like you're going to get the same amount of production out of those guys.
I will say, I was kind of hoping I'd get like the end of the tight ends, because I am pretty excited.
Aaron Hernandez?
No. I am pretty excited about who I think is a strong number 3 on the list. A strong number 3 on the list. But nevertheless.
Matt Lacoste, right?
Huh?
It's Matt Lacoste, right?
Matt Lacoste, dude. I mean, I almost took him number 1, to be honest with you, but
Robert Gronkowski, the second most receiving yards in Patriots history, 70-61.
There you go.
In 8 seasons, really just some incredible stuff. If he played as long as, I don't think it's a spoiler that Stanley Morgan's going to get brought up at some point in this podcast, but if he played as long as Stanley Morgan did here, he probably would be the all-time leading receiver.
I would say so. Yep.
So yeah, okay. So I have the second overall pick. I can't take Gronk, which really does suck, but Pat did kind of tip my hand there. Maybe the best we've ever seen Brady throwing the ball, at least deep wise, is to Randy Moss, and I got to take Randy Moss. It is some of the. It's really the one of the greatest what ifs in Patriots history. Obviously, they win that Super Bowl, but the other one is like, what if Tom Brady had a deep threat like that all the time? I know he didn't need one. Obviously, the guy won 1,000 Super Bowls without one, and then he got a couple in Tampa Bay and won another, but he's been able to, get over the hump with all these other guys. But Randy Moss, I think, pure skill-wise, it's kind of undeniable he's the best wide receiver Patriots have probably ever seen. Even just those few years, he was unbelievable. Just that the catch against the Jets, the catch against the Dolphins are the ones that stick out in your mind. But he was just lethal out there. And he was reinvigorated on the Patriots, and I loved watching him. So I got to go with Randy Moss. There really is no other choice here. It would have been him or Gronk, and I can't take Gronk. So,
yeah, there's no debate there. That's like Trevor Lawrence, and for most of the year, Justin Fields, like lock 1, 2.
Yep.
But for me, I have to go close to the heart. Not Wes Welker. I'm going to go Julian Edelman just because of the postseason heroics. You always need your security blanket, somebody that's tough as nails, can go over the middle of the field, make big catch after big catch. You can always trust him to make a big play, as we've seen over the years. He's only behind Jerry Rice in, I think, pretty much every statistical category in postseason history. And I think, he's healthier, maybe gets a chance earlier in his career and kind of earns time. If Wes Welker's not here for the first, I think, 3 years of his time, he might be, knocking on the door of Jerry Rice. So I'm going to go with that Edelman.
I gotta tell you, because I was bored today, I decided to watch the fourth quarter of Super Bowl 49, just because I have it on my DVR, obviously. So
unguardable.
It was that people forget how unbelievable of a game that was. That was the most insane comeback I've ever. And honestly, obviously, the 28-3 comeback is amazing, and it's an unreal game, and there's so many moments. But like that game was so unreal, and there were so many amazing plays from the fact that they get the ball down 10 and Brady gets sacked on that second to last drive, and it's 2nd and 17. And you're like, Jesus Christ, dude. And then he steps up. That completion to Edelman on 3rd and 14, where Edelman got his clock cleaned by Cam Chancellor, is just otherworldly catch by Edelman. And then he had another 3rd and 8 where he threw it to him again. I mean, Edelman was unbelievable in that game. Had over 100 yards receiving in that game. Obviously catches the game-winning touchdown. And then Butler had like those three, obviously the interception, but he had one play that everyone forgets about on the second to last drive by Seattle where he gets beat by, I think, Lockett running across the field, and he falls down. And as he's falling, he trips Lockett. And Lockett was wide open. He was going to catch a 20-yard pass, and he just stuck his hand out and tripped the guy. And it was like, it looked like it was an accident, but he did it on purpose, and he got away with it. And it was like, if he catches that ball, the Patriots maybe lose that game, and that they don't even get the chance to drive down and score a touchdown. So it's just, that's a play that everyone forgets about, but was a great play a heads-up play by an undrafted rookie,
Yeah, and I mean, I like the Edelman pick there. I can't argue. I mean, this chemistry with Brady is undeniable. I mean, maybe his favorite weapon that he's ever played with in New England, and he's fourth all-time in receiving yards for them, 36 touchdowns, which is actually a surprisingly low number, but I guess he's not really that much of a red zone guy. 6,800 receiving yards, though. I mean, he's got 620 catches. That's up there for the most all-time, with Wes Welker, the guy he's so often compared to in New England. But I've always loved Edelman. I've always been a huge fan of his. Emily's been a big fan of his for a while. And like you said, just the testament of that, the grit he's made in the second Patriots dynasty.
Yeah.
He's like the offensive Donta Hightower. He's made incredible plays in all the wins, and when he's not there, they lose. So
right.
It's pretty much how it's been. And he's been such a joy to watch. And like you said, that Cam Chancellor hit would probably kill a lot of people. And he just got up and was like, I'm fine. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Let's move on. Next play.
All right, Dave.
So Dave, you have back-to-back picks. What if I told you could take anybody you want except for Gronk, Randy Moss, and Julian Edelman?
I would say, damn, that sucks. There's a lot of great players here. I think one thing when you look at it, definitely the defense is loaded. Like, we're only going to take 8 guys total amongst all of us. Like, you can wait to your last 2 picks and still get 2 incredible players.
Borderline Hall of Fame.
I know, exactly. I'm gonna go with Ben Coates just because I don't want to get stuck with Daniel Graham I love Ben Watson, but I don't want to get stuck with Ben Watson. So I'm gonna take and then my next pick, I'm actually gonna dip into the well and go back a little ways too. I'm gonna take Stanley Morgan. I think he's the best.
Love Stanley. Stanley Morgan's career yards per reception is 19.2.
That's wild.
Career. That's ridiculous. The guy's, obviously the Patriots sucked when he was there, and he played a long time ago, so he doesn't get the credit that he deserves. But my God, dude, he's unbelievable. What a fantastic player. Great pick.
Yeah, that's a great pick. Like I said before, all-time leading receiver in Patriots history, only one who's cracked 10,000 yards. And like Pat said, that crazy stat just now. Yeah. Stanley Morgan, he's a beast, man. I mean, you can't really argue with it. It's not a name that a lot of current Patriots fans know because they're so young. But Stanley Morgan, a really important figure in Patriots history, their all-time leading receiver, and I can't fault you for that. And we'd be remiss if we didn't talk a little bit about Ben Coates because, like Dave said, Ben Coates is the second best tight end to pick on the board. And after that, it's slim pickings. I can tell you right now, my 8th round pick is going to be a tight end. Not even going to hesitate to tell you that. No offense to Daniel Graham or Ben Watson
that makes me sad.
Dear God, anybody else. Maybe, I don't know, maybe Ryan Izzo slips in there. Maybe I'll grab him in the 8th round. But
if there's any 50 or 60-year-old men right now, they're very upset at you. I'm just letting you know.
I understand that. I know. I got it. Thank you. So Spags, what are you going with next?
I got to protect him, right? So you have to, how important a left tackle is, especially for Tom Brady. I went back and forth on this, but I'm going to go Dynasty 1.0 and go Matt Light.
Great pick.
One of our podcast came on a few years ago.
Yep.
Somebody that Tom trusted for years and played a lot of meaningful football games down the stretch. So I'm going, I guess, old school. I'm not a big lineman guy, especially kind of talking draft. They get lost in the shuffle there. But when we're talking about Tom Brady, we got to keep him up. And I'm going to go with him.
Love it.
Yeah, he was absolutely my next pick. So that kind of throws me for a bit of a loop here. But I love Matt Light. It's kind of shocking to me. He only made one first team All-Pro.
Yeah.
But he was such a dominant force for that Patriots team, and it was just awesome watching him defend Brady the whole time. I really wish they could have gotten the perfect season for him, especially. But
you know what it is with Light is that I don't think he was ever like a top 5 tackle in the NFL, but he was just so solid and consistent. Like he just, he was dependable. So he was probably in that 5 to 10 range, and sometimes at his best, I think that 3 to 5 range. But that's still outside of the All-Pro. You know what I mean? So it's just like he just missed out on that All-Pro stuff because it's like he was never like the best. Like there was always like Jonathan Ogden and like, and Orlando Pace and guys like that, where it was like he was good. He was never that level, but he was just so solid and consistent for the Patriots for so long that like he's an easy pick as the number 1 left tackle.
153 starts for the Patriots. Yeah. Really, really great career. All right, so as much as I didn't want Spags to force my hand, he absolutely did.
Don't do it.
This might be a bit of a weird pick, but you know what? I'm riding high off of my fantasy stream win in the poll, and I'm looking good in the college football one, so I'm riding high right now. I'm gonna go with Trent Brown.
Trent Brown.
Wow.
Because even though he was only here for 1 year, that dude is someone I would never want to try to run through. He's how big was he again? What were the dimensions? Like 6'8", like 300.
Bro, he was like 360. Yeah. Like sometimes pushing like 380. I mean, the guy's an absolute house, which is part of his problem, which is one of the reasons why Vegas hates him now because he can't get his weight under control.
Right.
And they gave him the big money, and now all of a sudden his weight's out of control. But
with the Patriots,
he was fantastic. He was unbelievable.
That's all I care about right now. Is how good he was with the Patriots. So like we did with tight ends in the first round, we are cornering the market on left tackles here in the second round. I loved Trent Brown when he came here. I mean, they got him for a pittance to begin with, and he was just such an anchor on that offensive line. And it sucked that he left, but we always knew he was going to get a big payday after that Super Bowl. So, Trent Brown's my pick there.
I like it, gentlemen. It is the 8th pick. It's the end of the second round.
That's true.
And I am about to draft one of the greatest running backs in the history of the NFL.
So are you taking Jonas Gray here? Or?
Jonas Gray. No, Jonas Gray. No, Curtis Martin is the obvious selection here. Rookie of the year, 1996. Just an absolutely phenomenal player. Brings the Patriots obviously to the Super Bowl, and then leaves a few years later to go play with Belichick, with Parcells. I'm sorry, with the Jets. So obviously had a short career here. Only played 3 years here with the Patriots, but arguably the best running back they've ever had. Certainly for me, at least, you talk about top 5 ever. I mean, the guy could do everything. He could pass block. He ran the hell out of the ball. He could catch the ball to the backfield. He's unbelievable. Just an absolutely phenomenal player. And so Curtis Martin at the end of the second round is my choice. And to start this is now the question, right? And this is what Dave said. Like, there's so many defensive players that I feel like I almost should wait on defense. Although, like, some of these names, I'm just like, oh my God, they're so good. Like, I want to draft them all. But I am going to go wide receiver, since wide receiver has been off the board. A few wide receivers have gone off the board. And I'm going to go with a guy that had just had so much production that maybe, like, by the numbers, by, like, the measurables, shouldn't be the pick here, but Wes Welker's the pick. The guy completely dominated every single year he was here in New England. The chemistry he had with Brady was unbelievable. And so Welker is the pick for me there.
It's a good pick. I'm surprised he lasted in the third round, but once the tight ends and left tackle started getting off the board, I'm not surprised.
Shouldn't have dropped that ball. He would have been earlier, but
I know.
God,
don't even.
I like Wes Welker there.
50-50, by the way, on that. That's 50% on Brady and 50% on
Welker. Yeah. Sorry.
I would say I'll do 51. I'll do 51-49 if you want. I'll put 1% extra on Welker if you'd like.
I'm on bag side on that one. I'm not. I obviously love Wes Welker and what he did for the Patriots, but I'm not his biggest.
You got to make it. I mean, you got to make the catch. Don't get me wrong, but
right. I'm also not. I also am a little bit bitter about the time that he shattered Aqib Talib's ribcage with his giant helmet.
Yeah, that was kind of a cheap job.
And Belichick was so pissed about that.
So mad.
But I like those picks. I need to circle back for a second. You say Curtis Martin's one of the 5 best running backs of all time?
Sure is.
Wow. I'm a little floored by that.
Look at the record books, baby. What's he like? Number 3 all time in rushing yards?
I guess, but Frank Gore's going to be up there too. Is Frank Gore one of the 5 best ever?
No, but Martin could do everything. He was different than Gore is a guy that's just lasted forever. And Martin was around for a while too, don't get me wrong, but I mean, you're talking about a guy that led the league. Get out of here, would you? Sorry, Mike. They put the freaking puppy in with me. But Martin's a guy that led the league in rushing for years and was dominant for a long time with the Jets. Not just oh yeah, he's around and rushing for like 800 yards or like 1,004 yards. Like he's a guy that was dominant for a long time. So to me, that's why I think that he's one of the best ever. And again, the longevity obviously has something to do with it, but yeah, I mean, the guy was unbelievable. So dynamic when he was here,
For sure. I understand it. Yeah, so my pick is up next. Like Pat said, there are a lot of great defensive players, so it's probably wise to hold off on that. Could go with a running back. I already took Randy Moss, so vegetable burritos. Sorry. Got distracted by vegetable burritos. Anyway, I'm going to take Ty Law.
I like that pick. Yeah, I'm gonna stick with defense here too. Somebody that should be in the Hall of Fame, should have made it a few times already. You guys can already know where I'm going with this, but Richard Seymour. Talk about a dominant. I believe the highest. Where was he drafted? What overall?
23.
No,
he was 6. Yeah, I was gonna say I think he's the highest ever draft pick by Belichick.
Oh, right? Who did you say? Seymour? I thought you said Tyler.
No, Seymour. Sorry. He took Ty Law. I took Seymour.
Aha, got it. Okay.
Somebody, like I said, he'll be in Canton soon, but might be the most dominant defensive player that Belichick's ever had, and obviously at the highest pick. So I don't think you're going wrong with Richard Seymour there in the 3rd round.
Oh, but I mean, they should have taken David Terrell though in that spot. I mean, everyone agrees with that, right? Like they should have taken him. Ron Borges will still tell you to this day. Absolute mistake, rookie mistake by Belichick. Idiot taking the defensive lineman over the wide receiver.
Before I circle back, before I go to Richard Seymour, I just want to say a quick word on Ty Law, who I also think was held out of the Hall of Fame a little bit too long, but he thankfully made it in. He's just a phenomenal defensive back, probably if not the best, one of the best defenders the Patriots have ever seen. I mean, he was just such a lockdown player. And he was first on my board as far as defenders. Richard Seymour, it's kind of ridiculous that he's not in the Hall of Fame. Not kind of, it's absurd that he's not in the Hall of Fame. Yeah. If you look at the Pro Football Reference Hall of Fame monitor, he's pretty much on par with Jason Taylor. And if you know Jason Taylor, fun fact about him, he has a gold jacket already. So, Richard Seymour belongs in the Hall of Fame. There really is no question about it. And like Spag said, it's a matter of time. I mean, the sack numbers for Taylor are much higher, but Richard Seymour also played a couple of seasons less than 3 seasons less than.
But that's the reason why, because Jason Taylor has the sacks. Oh my God, look at all these sacks that he gets. It doesn't matter. That doesn't make a difference. That's not. You're talking about Seymour was the most dominant defensive end.
Yeah.
For multiple years in the NFL, and the guy was completely unstoppable. And so he unfortunately for him. And I guess fortunately for him, because he got a few Super Bowls out of it, but unfortunately for him, he sacrificed those sack numbers to win. And so now as they're looking at his resume to get into the Super Bowl, get in the Hall of Fame, they're like, well, he doesn't have the sack numbers. It's like that doesn't matter. Like the guy was completely. I mean, talk to anyone who had to block the guy. Like he was unbelievable. So totally getting the short end of the stick here. I'm hoping next year is the year that it finally happens, but we'll see.
Also, just a quick note on Ty Law. The Hall of Fame tracker is not perfect because they have Ty Law with a lower career score than Richard Sherman, and I'm not a fan of that. Also, Rondé Barber, Lester Hayes. Those are also some guys who probably belong in the Hall of Fame. Rondé Barber's not in the Hall of Fame is pretty weird.
Yeah.
Feel like he deserves to be there too. Anyway, Dave, you have back-to-back picks.
This is tough because I keep thinking of taking guys, and I know this is a poll too, so I need to win people's votes. I can't just take all guys that went in like the 60s and 70s.
Right.
So
I'm sticking to my lifetime, man. So I'm sure you're with me there.
Yeah, exactly. but I have to take this guy. I know I was going to wait on defense. I'm taking Andre Tippett. He's been on the board way too long. I think he's one of the best defensive players ever to suit up. He's a monster. He could do anything on the field, and I still watch like plays of him on YouTube, just like bulldozing people. It's just he's one of my favorites. And then my second pick, I'm going to double down a receiver here. I think I'm going to wait on running back. I'm going to take Troy Brown. I think he's been on the board too long too. A lot of production. I know he probably doesn't have the talent level of Welker and Edelman. I think he's a little bit behind them, even though the stats probably say otherwise. But I love Troy Brown. You need a security blanket, like Ryan said, and Troy Brown could be that guy.
It's a great pick. As far as Tippett is concerned, I think he's on the Mount. You talk about someone posed a question about who's on the Mount Rushmore. Obviously Brady is, and then who's there? I think Tippett is a guy that deserves to be on the Mount Rushmore, and not just for what he did as a player. Obviously finished with 100 sacks and and is in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, but he's been working for the Patriots ever since, and so talk about a guy that's been with the Patriots in basically most of his life, and so a Patriots lifer. And I think that, that guy, when you talk about like the Patriots, I think about two guys. When you talk about, three guys, when you talk about the Patriots, it's Brady, it's Tippett, and the other guy is Geno, because Geno was with the team for, literally from the second they started almost until he died. Until he died. Is he still alive?
Geno Cappelletti?
I
No, right?
think he died.
Yeah, he died.
I think so. I was going to say.
He died somewhat similar time span to Gil Santos, didn't he?
Yeah, I thought he and Gil died around the same time. I believe. I might be completely wrong about that though. But now I'm like second guessing myself because I know that Gil died a few years ago, and I'm like, wait a second, hold on now. I don't think he has died yet. I don't believe he has. He's 87.
Oh wow. Well, apologies to Geno if you're listening. Andre Tippett, quick note on him. He is, first of all, a very good friend of us OCD sufferers. He has 100 sacks on the dot for his career. He also has 3 of the top 4 Patriots single season sack numbers. 18 and a half is the single season record for the Pats, and he has it. And really, after him, it's McGinnis with 78, and then Chris Slade with 51. Like, no one else is even close to him. And right now, the active leader on the Patriots. Can you guess who the active leader on the Patriots right now in sacks is?
Chase Winovich.
No.
Donta Hightower.
Donta Hightower.
Yeah, he was going to be him or
25.5 sacks.
25.5. There you go.
And I said active with the Patriots because Chandler Jones is 36 with the Patriots is still the high mark among active players, but he finished 3 short of tying Richard Seymour, in fact. But
there you go.
Andre Tippett, yeah, I mean, Hall of Famer, great, one of the best Patriots players ever. Obviously, if he's drafted here, so can't blame you there. Troy Brown, also Dave, playing a little 3D chess with us here because you could throw him on defense if you want to.
Oh,
I could. Then again, Ryan could throw. I don't.
That's Spags. Yeah, see, there you go.
Yeah, I could. All
right, Spags.
I'm staying on that. Staying defense. I'm torn here because I think both of them did such a great job down the stretch, but only one of them won Defensive Player of the Year. We know how hard that is for a quarterback to win. I'm going with Stephon Gilmore. So I got Richard Seymour up front and Steph Gilmore. Just completely shutting down his side of the field year after year. Certainly deserves a big payday. I think that's coming his way, whether it's here or elsewhere. Regardless of whatever happens to him here in the future, super thankful for what he did. I think he completely changed the way Belichick played defense down the stretch. And I mean, we see how valuable it is to have a cornerback that legitimately just takes away one side of the field, and he's done it consistently. So I can't go wrong there with Gilmore there.
Yeah, I can't blame you. I mean, Gilmore has been so dominant for his time with the Patriots, and other than, and you know what, it's funny, Darrelle Revis did not make my list. He probably should have, but I feel like Steph Gilmore has just been such a joy to watch, and the play that will always be seared in my mind. You can say what you want about the interception in the Super Bowl, that's fantastic, but the play of his that's really seared in my head is the Jacksonville game. With the that pass breakup is one of the most athletic plays I think I've seen for the Patriots in the past like 5 or 10 years.
Unbelievable. Still my header. Still my banner on my on my.
I didn't want to say that because I wasn't sure, but I thought that was your header still.
Yep.
An unbelievable play. Like I got up from my seat and just shouted because I couldn't believe how great that play was. Like, that's the reason Belichick sprung for him. We know he doesn't spring for big free agents very often, and there's a reason why he did it for Stephon Gilmore. And we saw it. I mean, it's resulted in DPO.
Not only that, but by the time the contract was over, which it isn't even over, this is the last year, it was an absolute bargain for for him. So really forward thinking there by Belichick.
For sure. That's a great pick. You got Richard Seymour and Stephon Gilmore. That's not bad. It rhymes too, which is great. So I am going to go with the opposite order that Spags went in. So he went for his line guy and then his defensive back. I'm going to go my defensive back and then my line guy. I'm going with Willie McGinnis. I mean, I can't let him slip through my fingers here. Big Willie, he's the man. I mean, I don't want to get tackled by him ever. Like I said, 78 sacks with the Patriots. That is second all time on the team. He was just a beast. 4th overall pick. A monster. Just an absolute monster. He was so much fun to watch. Seems like a really nice guy too. And unless you're facing him on the football field, but he's just a behemoth out there. And he was one of those guys that, that first dynasty really was built around. So Willie McGinnis, thank goodness they got that dynasty for him because he suffered through some interesting years in New England. So I got to go with Big Willie. Like there was no other choice here for me.
It's a great pick. It's a great pick. I actually have a funny McGinnis story. So as I said, I was 10 when he got drafted. I wrote him a letter, and you could, and I'm assuming this is how you still do it. I haven't written a letter to a player and who God knows how long, but like I wrote a letter and you just send it to like the team. So I wrote a letter to him and I'm like, hey, I included a card. And I'm like, hey, you're my favorite player, blah, 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 all this stuff. Like, I would love it if you could sign this card and send it back. But like, if you can't, don't worry about it. And I sent it in like, I don't even remember, like December or January or something like that. And like nothing, heard nothing back, nothing. I'm like, oh, forget. I'm like, all right, I obviously didn't send it back. Like September rolls around and I come home from school one day and there's an envelope. And it's literally just the card signed by McGinnis. No note, no nothing.
Awesome.
It was so dope. Dude. I was like,
that's cool.
The coolest thing ever. You know what I mean? So I still have it somewhere, but it was like, I was like, that's the coolest thing ever, dude. Like that he said he signed it and sent it back. So, but yeah, he was my guy, dude. As I said, I had his freaking jersey and literally wore it down. So,
yeah, I love McGinnis, man. I wish. I mean, I was so young for that first run. I wish I was able to see more of what he did in real time, but
I still say he got robbed on that holding call. Would have turned that game into a blowout. But then Brady's not Brady. We don't have that defining moment or whatever. But that game was almost a blowout.
It was all in the cards, Pat.
Yep.
So Pat, you're up here.
Yeah, I'm up.
And we have raided the defensive covers since your last.
You absolutely have. And so I don't know, Dave. You haven't taken a defensive guy yet, have you?
So Tippett, he has one left.
Oh, he has Tippett, right? He took Tippett. Spags has both. Jacob has both. Got it. Okay. I'm gonna go. I'm actually gonna go wide receiver. Fill up my wide receiver room, and I'm gonna go with. I already have the underneath guy, the reliable guy. I'm gonna get the speed guy. Got to take the top off the defense. Bill Parcells would hate me, but I'm taking Terry Glenn. Guy was an absolute monster. Obviously, won a ring in 01, but didn't really do anything in 01. But just an absolutely fantastic player. Obviously died tragically a few years ago, but him I know for sure died a few years ago. I have to go with him. So I'm going Terry Glenn, and then oh man, it's tough. All right, I'm gonna go defense because I'm gonna go. Yeah. There's too many. I was gonna go running back, but there's so many good running backs on the board still. That's what he said.
Running backs don't matter, man. They don't matter.
Jordan Richards. I'm going Jordan Richards. That's what I'm taking. Right now. No, I'm going.
So Denard.
The other lockdown corner for the Patriots, Darrelle Revis, the guy obviously only played 1 year for the Patriots, but arguably one of the best lockdown corners in the history of the NFL. And so I am taking Darrelle Revis.
That's a good pick. Like I said, he was a complete oversight on my board. But yeah, that 1 year, it was legit Revis Island. Except that he got burned so little that I remember the plays he got burned on. Like that Jordy Nelson catch against the Packers, he got burned on that play. And that was pretty much it. Like he never got burned.
Yeah, it was like, here, go one-on-one against everyone. And he's like, all right, cool. We can do that.
unbelievable, really an unbelievable player. And and it was unfortunate how he kind of spoke about the Patriots after he left here, but the year he had was pure bliss.
Yep,
pure bliss. Yeah, I like that pick a lot. So I still need a wideout, my tight end, who I already said I'm saving for the end, and 2 running backs. And Dave and Spags both need their running backs, so I think I should probably spring for one here. Oh man, this is not easy. You know what? I might as well take him. I'm gonna take Sam Cunningham. He's the all-time leading rusher for the Patriots.
Bam.
I mean, I gotta take him. And you mentioned Curtis Martin, but the Patriots have had an interesting history with running backs because they haven't really had one of those. I mean, you could say, Sam's great. You said Curtis Martin's top 5 all time. I disagree, but they've never really had that, like one of those all-time great rushers on their team, at least in my opinion. But that's where I stand. But I love Sam Cunningham. I think he's a good value pick in the 5th round, especially if I want a pure old school runner. I'll try to get one of those other guys that Brady loves for dump offs later on. But I couldn't pass up a running back here, especially when Spags and Dave both need both of their running backs. So God knows what would be left when it came back to me.
I am sprinting to the podium for this pick. You talk about a guy who can just completely take over offensively, and somebody that was probably the biggest blue ball in Patriots history. I don't know if you know where I'm going with this one. I'm going to go with Antonio Brown.
Wow.
I think Antonio Brown and Julian Edelman would be insane. I think arguably everybody forgets about him, but I mean, he's on pace for what do you have? People forget. I know, the off the field stuff last year. I was praying it worked out, praying he came back. Right. People forget how hard it is to step in here, especially as a veteran receiver. When you spend your whole career in one system, this guy comes in. Didn't participate in training camp, didn't play preseason, stepped in right away, and just football looked so easy to him. Like, it's so hard for a receiver. We see it all the time. These guys that come in and just never pan out. Eric Decker, Torrey Holt, obviously towards the end of their careers, but just never seemingly could figure it out. He came right in, and I know it's the Dolphins, but it looked too easy. And you will never. Patriots win their 7th Super Bowl if him and Josh Gordon play to their capability, and they stick around and play, stay out of trouble and are on the field. So yeah, I'm going Antonio Brown.
I like it.
I'm a little surprised, but I do love it. I mean, I thought I was being feisty taking a guy that played one season, not one game.
One game. It counts.
You know what? Yeah.
The talent that's there, though. You know what I mean? You know what AB you're getting. And he's my guy. I've always thought he was before all this stuff, but that's another story for another day.
Yeah. I like the modern era dynasty for the wide receivers and the old school dynasty for the defensive players and the protection. So I like it. Dave, you need both your running backs, your left tackle, and another defensive player.
I'm gonna actually take out both running backs in this swing.
There we go.
I'm gonna go with one guy that I really like, but most of the people that are gonna vote in the poll probably have no idea who he is. I'm gonna take Jim Nantz. I think he's the second best running back behind Curtis Martin in the franchise. I think he's a little bit ahead of Sam Cunningham. He played, I think it was I want to say like 10 less games, and he still had within 100 yards of him for the Patriots. So
he won that year. Was that 64? I believe that was 64. He won like AP AFL Player of the Year, essentially the MVP. I mean, other than Brady, no other players won the MVP, and he I know it's the AFL, not the NFL, but he wins the MVP in 1964. I mean, what do you have? 1,400 rushing yards in like 10 games. It was stupid. That year was insane.
Yeah, he had 1,458 with 11 touchdowns.
Oh,
do you know how long I went as a kid thinking that Jim Nantz was Jim Nantz?
Yep, absolutely, dude. Absolutely, because you're like, my dad would be like, "Oh, this guy Jim Nantz," and I'm like, "Oh, like that guy?" And he's like, "No, not that guy." And I'm like, "What do you mean?"
He doesn't look like a running back.
He doesn't look like a running back. Like this guy shed a lot.
I guess he's good. Yeah, okay.
I was like, wait a minute, that's what his last name felt.
Yeah,
must not be the same guy. So Dave, Jim Nantz is the start. Who's the other?
That's my second guy. I can't believe he's still here. I'm taking Kevin Falk.
Yeah,
he's so goddamn reliable. Like, he may be the reliable person ever to play for the Patriots. He came up with he had the knee problem at LSU. He had the fumbling issue at LSU. Comes out, never really fumbles in the NFL. Does everything that's asked from him. Catches every pass. Never gets hurt. Makes every block, every pass pickup. He just did everything.
Kevin Falk was so reliable. The only time I remember him fumbling was when he tore his hamstring.
Yeah,
he literally let go of the ball to grab his hammy.
He was unbelievable, and I actually played basketball with him. I used to play basketball with him pretty consistently, and he's also the nicest guy in the entire world, just the nicest guy you could ever hope to meet. And just a ridiculous a ridiculous basketball player too, just absolutely insane basketball player, ridiculous shooting. Obviously, the speed and quickness was obviously professional level, but he was unbelievable. It's a great pick.
Spags, you need both your running backs and your tight end.
Yeah, this one's tough, but I'm hoping the other guy's there when it comes around. But I'm going to go with Corey Dillon, another guy who kind of had one foot out the league in Cincinnati. I'm currently reading the Dynasty book, and kind of talked about he kind of had this image of him in Cincinnati, and basically was just kind of sick of losing and just kind of being in a place where the culture wasn't strong. Comes in here and just give it to him 28, 30 times a game, and he's going to get you 100 yards. A true 3-down back, somebody that really helped them get that, second, third Super Bowl. So yeah, I'm going to go Corey Dillon here.
It's a good pick. He was on my big
Corey Dillon. Guy was unbelievable.
Corey Dillon, kind of a forgotten stud for the Patriots for those years. I mean, he had, let me pull up his numbers here, 8th most rushing yards, but he only played for 3 years here in New England.
Crazy.
He had 180 rushing yards. He scored 37 touchdowns.
Oh, God. Yeah. That's not even including the postseason.
No, not even. That's all in the regular season. Yeah. So, not a bad player for the Patriots there. He had some decent seasons, I would venture to say.
Yeah.
So I am going to take my second running back here, and this might be more of a personal pick, but I also think that he's been just so incredibly reliable for Tom Brady over his years in New England. So I'm taking my boy Jimmy White. Come on down. I'm taking James White, baby. Kind of that second coming of Kevin Falk. I feel like Shane Vereen crawled so James White could run, or whatever the phrase is. Vereen was a good player, but I don't think he was ever as reliable or as good as James White has been. I mean, James White is such a versatile player, and he's what the Patriots, he's really personified what Patriots football is when it comes to he does everything out there on offense. And when he goes down, it's tough because he does so much for them. So I love Jimmy White. I got Sam Cunningham. And I got James White, so I like my backfield. I think Tom Brady's gonna have a fun time with these guys. It's
pretty damn good. It's pretty damn good. All right, I got my back-to-back picks here. I'm gonna take my
left tackle defense.
I'm going left 8th round for left tackle, so we can.
No, you get to take.
Well, I got the last pick, so you can take whoever you want, left tackle. But running back wise, I'm gonna go with I think the best running back available on the board, and that is gonna be Dion Lewis. Obviously didn't play very long here, and I know that's who Spags wanted to come back to him. I couldn't wait any longer, man. Unbelievable, just a ridiculous talent. What he was able to do, and the way that he'd catch the ball out of the backfield was just untouchable. I don't know if I've ever seen a better touchdown than the one he had against the Cowboys, where he shook 4 dudes in a yard. There were 4 guys around him in 1 yard, and he just shook all of them and scored a touchdown. It was just how the hell did he just do that? He was a lot of fun to watch. Obviously had some injury issues. Wasn't great after he left here. Didn't have very nice things to say about the Patriots once he left. But just a fantastic player, and so I'm going with him. But interestingly enough, as I was doing some research, John Stevens and Leonard Russell both won Rookie of the Year with the Patriots as running backs, if you could believe that. And neither of them, I think, are anywhere near great players or anything like that. But I think within the span of, I think Leonard Russell was 92, and I want to say John Stevens is 88 or something like that. Within the span of a few years, they had 2 running backs win Rookie of the Year, which I guess isn't really a great thing. But nevertheless.
I love that pick. Dion Lewis, that when he went down again against Washington, like that was a moment in the season. That was a real turning point.
I thought he tore his ACL on the kick return versus Atlanta.
Yeah,
that's right.
Prior to, I think that was to kick off overtime. I was like, oh, he's done. But it was just a hammy.
No, at the end of the game. Was it the end of the
regulation? It was either that or start overtime.
I also forgot how things went sour with him. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
But, he was such a dominant player for them during that run. And what year was it he tore his ACL? Was it 15?
Yep. The year we lost to Denver, I believe.
Yeah. Yeah.
That sounds about right. That was a rough season at running back.
Everyone was injured that year.
Yeah, Dion Lewis is a great pick though. I can't fault that, especially if you got a backfield of Dion Lewis and Curtis Martin. That's not bad.
Yeah, I'll take it.
There have been worse backfields trotted out there.
That's true. It's very true. So, all right, I'm going defense here. As I said, left tackle is my last pick. And it's tough because I got three guys on my list. And I'll just flat out tell you, the three guys on my list, Vince Wilfork and Teddy Bruschi, are two of the guys on my list. I think they both deserve to be there. I think they're both fantastic players in their own right, because Vince Wilfork is one of the most dominant, nose tackles ever to ever play. Bruschi, obviously the heart of the team forever. However, I have to go with my boy Rodney Harrison. He's got to be my pick there. Rodney, it changed the culture in New England when he came here. Obviously a phenomenal player in San Diego. Everyone hates him. The fact that he's not even in the discussion for the Hall of Fame is an absolute disgrace. It's an absolute disgrace. And let me tell you something. There are two players in NFL history to have 30 sacks and 30 interceptions. Two. One of them is Ray Lewis. The other one is Rodney Harrison. He's the most dominant. He's arguably one of the most dominant safeties in the history of the NFL, and he's not even being considered for the Hall of Fame. And Tom Curran tweeted something out after, because John Lynch just got in, and Tom Curran tweeted something out after John Lynch got in, and he said, that's great that John Lynch got in, because then hopefully Rodney will get in, because Rodney had more tackles, more sacks, more interceptions, more everything, more forced fumbles, everything. He had everything. Statistically, he's better than John Lynch in every single category, and yet he gets slept on because people didn't like him. And meanwhile, he played like Ronnie Lott played, but he played 10 years after Ronnie Lott played, and so he was cheap instead of just being, a hard hitter and tough. And so it's just, but Rodney, it's a disgrace that he's not in the Hall of Fame. I hope that he gets in eventually because he deserves it. But, arguably, I think a top 5 safety in NFL history. And I freaking loved him. And like I said, he changed the culture here. They won back-to-back Super Bowls with him. Cut lawyer, obviously. Just a wild situation here. But love Ronnie's my freaking guy. Love him.
Dude, you know what? I just looked at the Hall of Fame monitor just to check up on John Lynch, and it really is stupid how he's in the Hall of Fame and Rodney's not. That is so ridiculous. Look, like you said, he literally has every stat better than
every single one.
Except, John Lynch wasn't a meanie and Rodney Harrison was, pretty much. That's all he's got.
That's it.
Great. All right, so I'm up next. I know I said my tight end was going to be my last pick, but Spags still needs a tight end, and nobody else has a wide receiver need. So I'm just going to wait for that to be last. And I'm going to take Ben Watson. I like Ben Watson a little bit more than Daniel Graham. And you could say I'm a little bit biased because I still think one of my favorite inconsequential plays of all time has to be Ben Watson hitting Champ Bailey, which by the way was 2,000% a touchback. It is, every time I watch that play, every time I say to myself, how did they not rule this a touchback? It is so clearly a touchback.
It's mathematically impossible for it not to be a touchback. I mean, really.
Math teacher, he knows this stuff.
Yeah. You know what's funny is that I actually use that play every year when I teach the Pythagorean theorem with right angles. I use that play. We show a clip of it, and then I make a right triangle out of it and everything else, and I show the whole thing. But it's great. But it's like, yeah, I mean, he gets hit at the 1-inch line, and his body flies forward. It's like the ball didn't stop in midair and take a sharp left turn. It's just not what happened, And it's just like that screw cost them. I mean, arguably that's at least a 7-point swing, if not a 10-point swing, and they lost by what, like 12? So you know what I mean? Like
that game was in Denver, right?
Game was in Denver.
Yeah. There you go. That's probably why they didn't reverse it. They didn't want to get.
Does Dave need a tight end?
Dave does not need. Dave needs
No.
a left tackle and a defensive player.
All right, so I can wait. I'm just gonna pick him because the value I want him to, for keeper purposes for next year. I just want to get the round. But no, I'm gonna. I have Corey Dillon in the backfield, somebody that I can hand the ball off to. I need a pass catcher. Obviously, James White, DL Lewis are off the board. I'm gonna go Shane Vereen. Talk about, somebody that kind of took a little while to get going here, like these pass catchers that I guess coming out of the backfield, but people always remember James White's heroic Super Bowl 51. Shane Vereen was really good in Super Bowl 49, I believe. This is just off the top of my head, but 10 catches for like 73 yards. And I think at that time had the most catches.
I think it was
running back.
I think it was 11 because I think
11.
I think he tied the record for most receptions in a game ever, which White obviously broke in 51.
Yeah, that's at the time, right? So,
yeah.
I'm gonna go Shane Vereen, the guy who's another guy that third down, send him on some swings, some angle routes. He's gonna do his job. So I'll take Shane Vereen.
It's a good pick. I mean,
Great pick.
People forget James White was inactive in that Super Bowl. Did not play.
That one-handed catch was foolish, dude.
Shane Vereen, great player. He was another one of those guys who cashed in, went to the Giants, and you never heard from him again.
By the way, 11 catches for 64 yards in that game.
That's good. That's good.
Not many yards, but man, he was there every time. And like I said, that one-handed catch, Brady threw it just out in front of him. If he doesn't stick his hand up and catch it, there was a defender right there would have been picked off. So, yeah.
People forget Shane Vereen, very, very, very reliable in that game. And I do like James White more. I might be a little bit biased just by recency bias, but Shane Vereen was a great player. I know friend of the podcast, Brandon Maxwell, big Shane Vereen fan.
He had the playoff game against the Texans. He scored 3 touchdowns in that game. Right. I mean, he had the long wheel route that Brady hit him in the corner of the end zone. Unbelievable.
Find someone who loves you as much as the Patriots love the wheel route. I hope you do. Yeah. So Dave, you need a defensive player and a left tackle. What do you got? You got to take them both here. Spoiler.
I'm so tempted to just break the rules and take John Hanna and put him at left tackle. I'm so tempted.
We can't do that.
Hanna, just so we can have John Hanna.
I know, right?
I'm gonna take Bruce Armstrong for my left tackle. He's the best left tackle left on the board after Matt Light went. And I think that's just a pretty obvious pick, even though no one's
Solder went undrafted. I can't believe it. Oh, that's right. All right. Spoiler.
Did you say Solder?
Yeah, I always forget who.
That's an accurate prediction by you.
Yeah. I spoiled it. Keep going, Dave. I'm sorry.
I'm gonna take Sebastian Vollmer and just
yeah.
Oh, I love Seabass. And then for defense, I was gonna take Harrison, so now I'm kind of between Mike Haynes and Will Fork.
Oh, Mike Haynes. Oh my god.
I love Mike Haynes. And McCourty too is sneaky for a deep safety.
Dave's telling Mike Vrabel to hit the bricks.
Shouldn't it be there for the playoff?
I want a secondary player.
That's a good point.
I'm gonna take Mike Haynes so I can have my cornerback. I gotta pass the corner. Best corner left on the board. I know some people are gonna say you go Samuel, you go Raymond Claiborne, you can even go McCourty. He played a little corner, he plays deep safety. I mean, I'm sure some people will talk about Chung, Deron Harmon. I don't know, those are the most recent guys. But I'm gonna go Mike Haynes, best player left on the board for defense as far as in the secondary. So I'm gonna go with Mike Haynes.
Tough to argue with a Hall of Fame corner,
Yeah, it's pretty tough to argue with that. I agree. I'm actually kind of surprised that Devin McCourty went undrafted. Not gonna lie, but I can see why when you've got Mike Haynes as the last defensive pick.
Yeah.
All right, Spags, you only need your tight end.
Yeah, so I get enough issues with Antonio Brown, so we'll stay away from the one we're all thinking about.
Thank you.
Just kidding, but no, I'm gonna go slim pickings here, tight end. I'm gonna have to go Daniel Graham. Believe a first round pick.
Yep.
Back in 2002. Obviously, how realistically how dominant tight ends weren't being used they are now. Obviously different game. But yeah, I was gonna go Scott Chandler, but no, I'll go Daniel Graham.
Scott,
so much
or Tim Wright. Tim Wright was
by the way, just so you know, you can't take the pick back now, but Matthew Mulligan was still on the board in case you were.
What a guy! What a guy! Sure,
Yeah.
I'm sure he's a super nice guy.
I'm sure he is too. He actually caught a touchdown pass from Brady, I believe. I think he's one of the 3,000 who have caught.
There was another kid too. What was his name?
Matt Lengel.
Yep, I was gonna say, didn't he play football, like one of the last classes of football at Northeastern or something like that? It was a crazy.
I think so.
You
You could have gone. You could have gone Rod Rutledge, or you could have gone Wiggy, Jermaine Wiggins.
I could have. Yeah, I could have.
Could have gone Fourier.
Screw it. I'm going Daniel Graham.
Fourier, he says.
Could have gone.
Fourier too.
You know what you could have done? You could have swung us all and taken Mike Vrabel. Strictly in the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways,
I
like the name pick.
Yeah, it's slim pickings. You could have done the old Martellus Bennett as well.
Yeah, that's true.
That would have been an interesting pick too. So not every day you get a Super Bowl MVP in the 8th round, my friends.
There you go. Yeah,
Branch, baby.
Yes.
Deion Branch and Randy Moss on the same field. Get out of here, son.
Pretty damn good.
Come on now.
It's pretty damn good.
I love Deion Branch, man. Deion Branch helped the Patriots inadvertently and directly because that trade was an absolute fleecing.
Mm-hmm.
And he's also a Super Bowl MVP, which say what you want.
I feel bad too when they announced that all dynasty team he was left off. It wasn't even an honorable mention.
That's
slap in the face to him. And he took offense to that. And I really don't blame him.
No.
I think I know Amendola was on there, deservingly so, right? Another guy who went undrafted. If you put him on, I think Deion Branch deserves to be on there too.
Deion, that's really the thing, right? No one's saying that Deion should be on the team, right? Because they've had a lot of very good receivers come through, and it's kind of hard to argue if you have Edelman, Welker, and Moss. You know what I mean? Like it's kind of hard to argue with those top three. But like Deion not even being an honorable mention is a joke.
And N'Keal Harry too.
I mean, you should have had him too.
Here's a hot take for you. If Julian Edelman doesn't miss 2018, Amendola doesn't make that all dynasty team.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Because all the stuff he pretty much filled in for Edelman in 2018. That catch against the Jaguars in the championship game, unbelievable. Yeah. And then he was such a presence in the.
He was really good in that Atlanta Super Bowl. You're right, but I don't know if that kind of jump starts him in there.
Right. He had like 150 yards receiving in the Philly Super Bowl too. So,
I also was tempted here to take lacrosse player Chris Hogan. No, I'm kidding. I was going to take Chris Hogan. He did have some good.
Now officially a lacrosse player.
The all-time single game postseason receiving leader in Patriots history. 188 receiving yards. I think that was it the Steelers game or the Eagles game?
It was the Steelers game because they were saying that. I remember going in, that was 2016 season, and Julio had done the same thing, had like 150 yards receiving and 3 touchdowns, just like Hogan did. And people were like, "Oh, look out for Hogan!" Like, "Oh, I know the Julio," and it's like, "Dude, stop it!" Like,
just want to throw a quick shout out to our boy Malcolm Mitchell, who still he is the what Shane Vereen is to the 49 Super Bowl. He is to the Falcons.
They don't win the Super Bowl without him, and it's really too bad. I mean, that guy was unbelievable, just a phenomenal player. And they talk about them missing on wide receiver so much, and if he had been able to stay healthy, I really feel confident that he would be like a legit number 1 receiver in the NFL if he could stay healthy.
People make fun of that Chandler Jones trade, but they got Joe Tooney and Malcolm Mitchell out of it. So
right.
One just
like you said, they don't, and even if it's only that one season, they don't win 51 without. They don't. It's just that's a fact, So, but anyways, all right, we get into final pick, Mr. Irrelevant here. Before we do, I know that Spags was going his lifetime, but I do have to say, Russ Francis not getting drafted here. I mean, my goodness, he's unbelievable. Arguably the second best tight end to play for the Patriots ever. And I know
I'm looking for chemistry, man. They got to play with him.
I know. Russ he was unbelievable. So
Brady's a big guy. Get on his page. I have to get the guys that he has history.
That's a good point. That is a good point. So I am going to go a little bit off the board for some people at left tackle, although you might remember his name because he recently was inducted into the Patriots Hall of Fame. But David mentioned John Hanna. I am going to go with John Hanna's running mate, Leon Gray, left tackle for the Patriots in the 70s. Hanna and Gray were considered the best tackle guard duo in the NFL for the 8 or 9 years that they played together. Gray was absolutely unbelievable at left tackle. And so, obviously a little bit off the board for some people that may not recognize the name. Like I said, maybe they do because he got inducted in the Hall posthumously last year. or I guess 2 years ago now, if we're whatever. But Leon Gray, just tough to pass up a Patriots Hall of Famer in the final round. So that's where I'm going.
Sorry, so we have all the picks. Before I read off the teams, get some honorable mentions. The only other 2 running backs I had were Tony Collins. Shout out Tony Collins. Saw him speak at Tollgate High School in Warwick. It was great.
There you go.
LeGarrette Blount, sneaky good running back for the Patriots. Top 10 rusher of all time for the Patriots. If you didn't know.
Crazy.
My only wide receiver left off the board was Irving Fryer.
Yeah,
that was it.
My favorite Irving Fryer story of all time is when Parcells walked in the door, and he was like, "We're running things differently here," and he's like, "Yeah, we'll see about that." And he's like, "Pack your shit and get out of here." He was like, "Okay," he's like, "See you later." That was it.
At left tackle, the only honorable mention Spags alluded to is Nate Solder. He was good. And I put John Hanna with an asterisk because I didn't want to forget to mention if this was like a 53 round draft, if we did a all-time Pats team, John Hanna would be a first round pick.
Yep.
John Hanna, maybe other than Tom Brady, the greatest Patriots ever play.
Yeah, I mean he's arguably the best offensive lineman ever play football. I mean, it's just unbelievable. So
Absolutely.
And of course, he weighed like 250 pounds or something stupid like that. I mean, it's like insane, like how skinny he was, how small he was. But
let me just throw out my many honorable mentions on the defensive side. Teddy Bruschi, obviously got to throw him out there. Devin McCourty, Vince Wilfork. I wasn't going to draft him, but I just want to show some love for Patrick Chung for consistency's sake. Lawyer Malloy, Nick Bonaconte, Raymond Claiborne, and Mike Vrabel are my other honorable mentions.
I don't think you missed anybody.
Wide receiver, maybe Gino. You could give Gino a little shout out at wide receiver, but more of a wide receiver / kicker. But still.
Yeah. Pat, any honorable mentions that I didn't mention?
I don't think so. I mean,
did you mention Amendola? I know we talked about it, but
I didn't. That is, if we did 3 receivers instead of 2, Amendola is definitely a pick, I think.
Yep.
I think so, for sure. Yeah, I agree. It's tough. I mean, it's like, you can look at some of the wide receivers that are there. David Givens was a guy who went like 8 straight playoff games with a touchdown catch. I mean, like, guy that went to Notre Dame, got drafted in the 7th round, like just, but I don't think he missed many guys. I mean, defensively, it's hard when you have the full defense, right? You could talk about so many different guys that played, fantastic here over the period of time, whether it's Rob Ninkovich or, or like you said, McCourty or Lawyer Malloy or, Asante, who you mentioned, or Malcolm Butler, or like, I mean, there's just so many guys because you're talking about an entire side of the field. And we're not even mentioning guys like Steve Nelson and, people like that. So it's, but I think we hit on the main ones,
Yeah, for sure. Spags, any honorable mentions we forgot?
No, that was it. I think you hit them all. Like I said, Amendola, but we obviously talked about him.
Dave?
Only one I don't remember hearing is Gerard Mayo.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, good one.
Good one too. Yep.
Was awesome for 8 years. I just really was bummed out when he got hurt.
Maybe Nink too, Ninkovich.
Yeah.
Cat,
you
maybe.
There, right?
Did you?
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's just that's Mayo's got 1 defensive rookie of the year in 2008. Like it's just you forget about stuff like that where it's like these guys are dominant, and you're like, oh yeah, like he's fine. People are like, oh, he's fine because he's not that flashy. Gets 20 sacks in a year or whatever. You know what I mean? Like he's just not, but so good player. Rosie Colvin's another guy who was
Rosie Colvin
here for a few years. You know what I mean?
Rosie Colvin
broke his friggin' hip trying to pick up a fumble in a preseason game. Just like the most bizarre injury ever.
All right. So our teams, we'll start with Pat. Your quarterback, obviously, is Tom Brady. Your running backs, Curtis Martin and Deion Lewis. Your wide receivers are Wes Welker and Terry Glenn. Your tight end is Rob Gronkowski. Your defensive players are Darrell Revis and Rodney Harrison. Good luck in the first level of defense, Pat. Leon Gray is your left tackle. My team, TB12 at quarterback. Sam Cunningham and James White in the backfield. Randy Moss and Deion Branch in lining up outside. Trent Brown at left tackle. And my defensive players are Ty Law and Willie McGinnis. Spags, your team, obviously, TB12, the GOAT. Running backs, Corey Dillon and Shane Vereen. That is a fascinating backfield. I would love to see that. Your wide receivers, Julian Edelman and Antonio Brown. I think the only wide receivers here who actually lined up opposite each other at any point.
Yeah.
Your left tackle is Matt Light. Your tight end is Daniel Graham. And your defensive players are Richard Seymour and Stephon Gilmore. Dave, your team, TB12, the GOAT. Actually, Dave, we gave you Matt Castle. Sorry. Your running backs are Jim Nance and Kevin Falk. Again, a fascinating backfield that I would love to see. Your wide receivers are Stanley Morgan and Troy Brown. Your tight ends, Ben Coates. Your left tackles, Bruce Armstrong. And your defensive players are Mike Haynes and Andre Tippett. So I will post this poll in a couple of days. But I think those are some fearsome teams. I like that Tom Brady, we have figured out the technology to clone him 3 different times. So we will get prime Tom Brady here, throw into all these guys, playing with all these guys.
Since we figured out how to clone him, can he come back and play quarterback for the real Patriots?
I would clone him 10 years in the future. I'll still take him. Like 5-year-old Tom Brady, I would still take. Right. But anyway, Pat, thank you for joining us. Where can the people find you?
So I'm on Twitter at @plane_Pats, as you can see if you're watching on YouTube right now. If you're not, at @plane_Pats, I'm on Pat's Pulpit. I host a podcast with Spags as well. The other guy that's here. He's over there. Nope. He's over there. Here we go. He's over there. But yeah, so it's fun. You can listen to us every Friday morning. We have a show coming out this Friday with Mark Schofield. So bringing off season stuff all the time. Oh, and I host a Armchair Superheroes with Taylor Kylas as well, talking about WandaVision and then soon to be Falcon and Winter Soldier as well in a few weeks.
That's right.
Go check it out. And Spags, thank you very much for coming on here. We appreciate it. Where can the people find you?
Sure. Thanks for having me, guys. It's a lot of fun. Ryan _Spags right there on Twitter. Obviously host a show with Pat. Got my first installment of my mock draft coming out this week. Probably be 4 installations there with trades, even maybe some player trades involved there at patspulpit.com. And like I said, on Twitter, kind of find me. That's where all my work is.
Their podcast is legit, guys. Evan Lazar went on this week. I listened to it. The wide receiver situation episode was a great one. I'm telling you, was it Corey Davis and who, Pat? Was Corey Davis and who that you said?
He wants Juju.
I want Juju, baby. Juju. And Corey Davis. I love Corey Davis. I
believe Corey Davis is a great Bill Belichick.
The stupid Titans. You didn't throw to him for 3 goddamn years. Just don't throw to him again for another year, and we could have had him for nothing. But instead, they had to throw to him 1 million times this year, and now he's going to get paid. So, that annoys me. But, well, there's so many guys that he's still at the bottom of the list of guys getting paid, but he's going to get paid a hell of a lot more than he would have had he gone another year with catching 0 passes. You know what I mean? For sure. Well, go check those guys out. Dave, where can the people find you?
At David_Albiani. And I think one thing, too, with Davis, there's a chance that with the limited cap space that people have, a lot of these guys take 1-year deals. That could really benefit them. Yep. Someone tweeted that out. I don't know who it was. An NFL guy, like an NFL player, was like, I think because of the salary cap situation, you're going to see a ton of 1-year deals, some sort of like super team situations, like some sort of NBA thing where guys are going to take 1-year small money deals and just try to jump all together to like one team. And someone was like, I hadn't thought about that, but that's
see you in Tampa, baby.
You know what I mean? I know, like everyone just goes to Tampa on a 1-year, $2 million deal. Like, Jesus. I can't blame him. But yeah, so Dave has an exclusive partnership with Twitter. He's not anywhere else, so don't bother trying to find him. I am at Jacob_Morocco, the podcast, at CSL Podcast on Twitter. You can find us at CSLpodcast.com. And keep on the lookout for some other fun stuff coming down the pipeline. And be sure to vote in this poll when it comes out. We will see you guys on the flip side. Let me just end the broadcast, and you guys are